In the last episode of VitaMins, we talked about content shock, a phenomenon rooted on the expanding volume of online content against the market's capacity to consume them. As we welcome another year of content, after content, after content, we can't help but think about how we can further set our work apart from the overwhelming options that our target audience has. What can marketers do in the age of content shock? Find out in this episode of VitaMins. Every single piece of content that you produce for your brand has a role to play. But how can it serve its functions if your consumers do not see it anyway? We reached out to Mark Schaefer, who coined the term content shock, and shared the previous episode of VitaMins with him. And to our delight, he shared another resource that will prove useful for content creators today. Steve Rayson identified different ways to make your content stand out in a heavily saturated marketplace. And here are 4 hacks that marketers can use to beat content shock. Hack number 1. Create content that the audience would want to consume. If you find that you have no choice but to compete in a content-saturated market, then here's one thing that you should do. Create value for your audience through your brand. Irresistible materials come in the form of content that offer useful information, novel ideas, and entertaining yet informative executions. Your audience should be able to snack on your content and use them as soon as the material ends. By offering your audience a benefit that your competition misses out on, you will be able to create a solid community of followers who will be excited to consume the next material that you produce. Hack number 2. Find your place in the world. How do you find opportunities when others have already snapped them up? You just have to know where to look. Not all content spaces are highly saturated, or at least, not yet. Content-heavy spaces are often filled with repetitive ideas and executions, which are most likely launched by your competition. As it turns out, the best way to beat them is by not competing in the same game. Find out what your competitors are doing and veer away from it. Find content niches where supply is low yet demand is high, and claim it for yourself. Create content that solves new problems. Come up with ideas that your competition hasn't even imagined yet. You can also maximize your opportunities by tapping a separate market. If all brands are targeting a certain demographic, then you should explore other emerging markets that will eventually grow. Hack number 3. Pay if you must. Paid amplification tools and distribution options are your friends. Don't be afraid to invest on them and use them to capture the right amount of attention for your content. It's a sad fact of life, but the brands with the biggest budgets often have bigger chances of getting their content noticed. More money, more eyeballs, more impact. So, consider the amount of time that you use to create your content and make sure that you allocate the same effort in promoting it. Jump in on the game as early as you can, because prices for this kind of high-demand tool will eventually shoot up. Hack number 4. Use content shock to your advantage. Want to hear something shocking? Content shock may be the solution, not the problem. This is particularly true for brands and creators who are already leading authorities in their preferred content markets. If you are already dominating your space, then you should do everything in your power to shock out the competition. Produce more content to make it harder for smaller players to join the game. Take up a bigger chunk of your audience's attention to make it harder for them to watch materials from your competition. Of course, the power of these hacks heavily relies on how well you know your audience and how well you can maneuver your content space. By being emphatic with what kind of content they want to consume, you will be able to offer them materials that will suit their needs, behaviors, and habits. And by being up to date with the evolution of your content ecology, you will be able to adjust your strategy. Here are 4 hacks that marketers can use to beat content shock. Create content that the audience would want to consume. Find your place in the world. Pay if you must. Use content shock to your advantage. For other hacks, tips, and how-tos, watch out for your next dose of VitaMins by VCS. For updates, subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow our social media accounts.